All right, guys, welcome back to another video. We have Doom the Dark Ages reviews that are out. The game looks absolutely phenomenal. I haven't got my hands on it yet, but I am getting the early access and stuff as I did get the collector's edition. So stay tuned for an unboxing of that when it does arrive. Xbox is hiring for a division that I had thought they had completely given up on, but this is great news. And I hope they double down on this, triple down on it if they have to, and just keep this alive. We'll take a look what that is for. We have some Nintendo Switch 2 news. The console is very close to being released. I'm very excited for it. I will be covering more of the Nintendo Switch 2. In fact, I have a second channel where I talk more Nintendo Switch stuff because I'm getting my Switch 2 day one and I really want to make content on that and cover it and stuff. So I'll have that linked in the description below if you want to go and follow me there, as well as that will be more focused on the Nintendo Switch 2. But there is some info I want to go over on today's news. And Blizzard, the Overwatch 2 team, they are unionizing. So this is another massive release here for Xbox, and it is the continuation of a huge first half of 2025 from their first parties. If you're on Game Pass, you are eating extremely well as the big hitters, the highly acclaimed games are dropping over and over and over again. You go from Avowed to South of Midnight, now to Doom the Dark Ages, and then you also had a game like Claire Obscure Expedition 33 on there. You also had the Oblivion remaster dropping. So there's just so many awesome day one games dropping into the service. Continuing here with Doom the Dark Ages, and to absolutely nobody's surprise, it is doing very, very well. So when taking a look at the average view score, it's scoring very, very high, sitting at an 88 on OpenCritic and then an 86 here on Metacritic, getting perfect scores, 5 out of 5s, 9.5s out of 10s, 9s out of 10s, 4 out of 5s across the board. And this is not surprising. Doom always does well. It always scores well. It always has a huge audience of people that are excited to jump in and play it. The biggest takeaway from this Doom is that the combat is different in a good way. You have your shield, there's parrying and all of that you have to utilize and stuff. And I think that is pretty cool. You're more of like a tank in this game. In fact, we have Akami 13 here with his impressions, and he talks about this, and this is some of the stuff that is actually exciting, especially when it comes to id Tech. So he says the first impressions of the game, the name of the game is Blocking and Parrying, and then from all the reviews I've been watching, that's basically what I'm seeing as well. There's lots of good reviews out there, like for example, go check out ACG Review, who is my favorite reviewer on this platform, and there's advanced movement and everything in this game that is different and additional to the previous Doom games that we have played. Melee is a bigger focus and satisfying, which is what we kind of saw when they first showed off this game. This is cool. id Tech 8 looks sublime and has great performance. id Tech to me is the one of the best things that is inside of Bethesda, inside of Xbox Game Studios, and I would love to see more games using id Tech. It is so good. The games look really good. They perform exceptionally. We've seen this already with a game like Indiana Jones and The Great Circle, how good that was with id Tech. Now we're seeing it here with Doom. I would absolutely just love to see more games utilize this system for the development of their games across the Xbox Game Studio, because I think it could do wonders in terms of having great performing, good looking games across the board with good and to great optimization, depending on or whatever platform that the game is releasing on, especially with now Xbox putting their games everywhere. They're going to need that optimization. So this is a look at id Tech 8, which I can't wait to see how this runs on my Series X, on my PC, on my Series S. I'm going to test it out on every single platform because I want to see the differences between them. I'm sure we'll get those deep dives into the performance of these games from outlets like Digital Foundry. Some of the other stuff here that it goes on, which is what I was expecting. Obviously, heavy metal, that's very cool, but slower paced than Doom Eternal is something I do want to highlight. They say without the double jump or the dash. And to me, I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that. I love Doom Eternal. I thought it was a great game. I think I like 2016 better. Doom Eternal was faster. And now as I get older and as my reflexes and twitches and everything aren't as good, like I like having the ability to slow things down and just kind of tank your way through. Now, obviously, you're still going to be moving around. There's still going to be that need for movement in the skill, that need for skill in the movement as you're going through the different areas of this game, but having that shield, having the parrying, focusing on melee a lot, Has me excited. I can't wait to play this. Like I said, I'm getting that collector's edition. I will be unboxing it, so stay tuned for that. Now, Xbox, I had thought they were pretty much abandoning backwards compatibility, like not taking it away from Xbox. It'll be there for the next generation and everything. But in terms of getting more games into the system that are currently aren't there, I thought they had moved on from that for a couple of reasons. I think the major one is it just doesn't make them that much money, I would assume, because if you're getting older games to work that have a very small fan base, how many people are actually going to go and play them? How many people are going to pick up a console to play them? How many people are going to go and buy them on the Microsoft Store? It probably isn't that much. And then I also thought licensing was an issue that they would run into, which they did, which would make it harder to get some of these games back. Well, it looks like they're not completely moving away from this. And this is something I believe Sarah Bond touched on at some point. I forget exactly when. It was one of the heads at Xbox. They touched on game preservation and how this was important to them. And it seems like they weren't lying about that, as Jason Ronald has put out a job posting here. This has me excited. This is one of my favorite things about Xbox, and was one of my favorite things from the beginning of this generation, which got me very hyped for the console, was how they were out there trying to preserve games and making sure backwards compatibility was a key feature on the console. So when they kind of went away from it, I was disappointed, but it looks like it could be coming back more. As Jason Ronald posts this, are you passionate about game preservation? Want to tackle some of the hardest engineering problems while enabling new generations to play games from the past? A great new role just opened up in one of my favorite teams here at Xbox. And if you go here, this is the specific role that they are hiring for: principal software engineer. And they are going to be a part here of the Xbox team, of course. And they say, as the principal software engineer in Xbox, you will coordinate across teams to define and implement the Xbox backward compatibility game security system to protect game assets while improving the experience for our customers. And you will work with other experienced emulation engineers to deliver high quality solutions that not only protect game content, but also improve the experience of installing compatible games. And you'll be a key contributor to the technology solutions developed to emulate legacy games on modern platforms. So right there, they're trying to make sure that older games are going to function and all work on the new generations of Xbox. And that's great. And I hope they're going to be focusing a lot as well on the OG Xbox, the Xbox 360. We need more of those games being emulated, doing whatever they have to do so that you can go to your Xbox, whatever device it is on, whether it is the console, whether it is on the handheld, your PC or whatever, go into the Microsoft Store and purchase these games and have them work one way or another. So I really hope they are going to expand on this more. This has me thinking that they are preparing for some big announcements for the next generation, maybe that they're bringing back this backwards compatibility program, and then they announce a bunch of games that are being added to the program. That's what my fingers are crossed here for, especially with everything getting more expensive. Back catalog, games that you haven't played from older generations, you will now want to go check those out instead of having to spend $80 plus on a brand new game. I mean, some people will want to, not everybody. Some people don't care. Money isn't a thing to them, but I think now is a great time, as things are going up in price, as the industry is becoming bloated. Go back and play those games that you haven't played. And if you can play them on the current gen consoles and next gen consoles with better resolutions and better frame rates, you have like the auto HDR stuff that they put on there, that would be an incredible way to experience these older games that still hold up very, very well and are still a ton of fun to play. All right, let's talk some Nintendo Switch 2. Some interesting stuff here. First of all, the big games coming out for the Nintendo Switch 2 at launch, in the launch window, are Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza. And they're saying here, Nintendo is saying here, the president, that they could not have made these games on the current Nintendo Switch. And I will say, Mario Kart World, the more I look at it, when you go look at the higher resolution videos of it, the game graphically, yes, it's simple. Yes, it isn't anything like we've seen with some really detailed games, like, for example, Assassin's Creed Shadows, or even more detailed racing games like a Forza Motorsport. But for Nintendo, for the color palette, for the clarity of it, I think it looks very good. And I think it's going to look beautiful on a 4K OLED display with all of the colors popping and everything. And if we're going to get a nice higher resolutions and higher frame rates for it, I am excited to play Mario Kart World. Well, you wouldn't be able to play this if the Switch 2 did not come out. This isn't something that they are just making here that they could have had on the Switch 1 to just sell the Nintendo Switch 2. At least this is a according to Furukawa, who was asked about the technical jump between the Switch and the Switch 2. And in response, he has said that the higher hardware processing performance has become necessary for software developers to realize one of Nintendo's most important goals, proposing new ways to play. It also goes on and claims here that the Nintendo Switch 2 launch games like Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza could not be realized. It says the Nintendo Switch 2 might not seem like much of a change on the outside. However, in reality, both the hardware and peripherals have been developed from scratch. And it is a big boost, I think, from the Switch 1. Even just the handheld mode with the 120 FPS screen and everything, that is a relatively nice gain. And if you're wondering kind of where this console does land in terms of power, because there's been a lot of debate and discussions around this, it looks like it is slotting in just a higher, slightly higher than a PlayStation 4, but of course less powerful than an Xbox Series S. There was a Chinese YouTuber who obtained a Nintendo Switch 2 motherboard, did an analysis, did comparisons and everything. And from that, it's saying here that the upcoming platform is slightly more powerful than the base PlayStation 4 console, but is not on the same level as the Xbox Series S. So that's exactly where it is going to slot in. I personally believe that's completely fine for the Nintendo Switch 2. They really don't need more than that for two reasons. One, majority of their fan base don't care. As long as they can get their games, they're happy. We saw this at the end of the Switch's life cycle with games like Pokemon that were running. I don't even know what the FPS was, but it was very low and it wasn't very good and it did not look good at all. But people still bought that game in record numbers. I even bought it. I played it. So they don't care. And two, it's more about things like the secret sauce and the software on it, like DLSS, NVIDIA DLSS, and how that's utilized in their custom chip and everything is going to be the pivotal thing here for getting games that are releasing in 2025 and forward to run on the Nintendo Switch 2. And in fact, we're seeing a lot of that optimization happen and NVIDIA's DLSS utilized in these games, and they're making them run pretty well. Like when you're seeing games like Cyberpunk 2077, Street Fighter 6, like these games that are currently out on the Series X and the PS5 running well on the Switch 2, it's because of that stuff. And developers are going to really focus on it. The Switch is a huge platform. Apparently it's easy to develop for and optimization is easier, and they've done a great job with that. So all of that is going to play way more than just the raw power under the hood for the Nintendo Switch 2. Got to keep in mind as well, it is a handheld, realistically. It's just something, a handheld that you can plug into your TV, which upscales it to 4K. So getting all that on the go, I think is pretty good. And we'll see how newer games come out, because we're hearing like Assassin's Creed Shadows is going to land on that. Star Wars Outlaws is landing on the Switch 2. So the fact that you can get those games running on it has me pretty optimistic for the future of AAA games landing onto the Nintendo Switch 2. And finally, a new union is forming here at Blizzard Entertainment, and it is under Microsoft here. Overwatch 2 developers have formed a wall-to-wall union at Blizzard Entertainment. It says here, game developers behind Activision's Blizzard hit franchise Overwatch have joined the Communications Workers of America, becoming the latest group of video game workers at Microsoft-owned studios to form a wall-to-wall union. And this goes all in line with the ABK acquisition and Xbox saying they weren't going to stop unions. They weren't going to try to step in and make sure that they didn't happen. We've seen, I think, a couple of unions now form here since that deal did go through. In fact, it says here, outside of Blizzard Entertainment, several other unions have formed across game development studios under Microsoft, including a Activision User Research and ZeniMax Online Studio. So this isn't the first one. And I wouldn't be surprised if more happen. I mean, if you take a look at what's happened in the industry over the last 2 years, it's been terrible for workers. Layoffs at any point, games canceled at any point, and it looks like it is continuing because we've seen it continue through 2025. So this does make sense. I would not be surprised if we see more unions forming throughout the gaming industry. I'm going to end the video there. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. We'll be right back.